You're clean, aren't you? Except for your tower. You're a tower junkie, Roland.
Hello and welcome to Tower Junkies, presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. Tower Junkies is a podcast devoted to Stephen King and his magnum opus, The Dark Tower series. We discuss the themes, characters, and mythology of the series in palaver episodes, and review the books and comic series in Kef episodes. We also discuss King novels related to The Dark Tower, non-Tower King novels, TV and film adaptations of King's work, and the latest news about potential Dark Tower-related adaptations. You can find more of our work at TowerJunkiesPod.com and follow us on every level of social media at TowerJunkiesPod. I'm your host, Matt Hurt, and it's just me today again. And today on the podcast, I'm kind of just do a general hodgepodge of different news items that have cropped up in the last couple of days. I'm recording this very soon after the relaunch episode that I put up yesterday. So, I'm recording this February 10th. It's been about 10 minutes since I stopped recording the last episode. So, yeah, so there's not much to kind of dive into as far as Stephen King news or check-ins, sort of. Check-ins, my check-in for the week is I just recorded a relaunch episode of Tower Junkies. Yeah, but I do want to mention this episode has a few different things that I want to go through, and one of them is the Pet Sematary trailer, and I'm going to save that for the end of the episode, though, because I don't want people to see the trailer. Okay, so Pet Sematary, if you have not read the story or seen the new trailer, or you're trying to avoid the new trailer because of the spoiler heavy stuff in it, stop listening once I get to that portion of the episode. But for your benefit, I am going to put that at the end of the episode. That way, if you want to be as untainted by the trailer and everything, you can avoid it without having to skip over an extended talk about it. So having said that, the first thing I want to bring up, though, is CBS All-Access. They just announced a couple days ago that The Stand is officially been ordered to series for a 10-episode series on CBS All-Access. Now, what that means is that it's getting 10 episodes, it's going to be on CBS All-Access, and it's happening, and I am so freaking excited about this. The Stand adaptation is a thing that's long been gestating, obviously. There was talk at one point of there being of it being broken up into 3 movies. I want to say that Ben Affleck was talking about directing it at one point. And then Josh Boone came on board, which I like that guy. He is like the quintessential Stephen King fan. Like he's a very talented filmmaker. I've enjoyed a lot of his work. I'm very much looking forward to the New Mutants that unfortunately got pushed back it was supposed to release last year, but it's been pushed back to this year. And there's a whole hubbub about it maybe being dumped on Hulu, and I don't know, but I'm still excited for it because I enjoy Josh Boone's work a lot. But he did have a movie called Stuck in Love, I believe, that he wrote and directed it, and it has Stephen King in a voice cameo, but Stephen King does have like he's part of the plot in the movie. Nat Wolff plays a guy who's obsessed with Stephen King, and it's just really charming and everything. I really like the movie, so check that out. So CBS All Access. I haven't had any experience with CBS All Access. I've heard good things about Star Trek Discovery, and I've been meaning to check that out, but I just haven't gotten a subscription to it. But man, CBS All Access is not CBS. They're not messing around with their original content, because they've got Star Trek Discovery here in just a few weeks, or like 6 weeks. They're launching the Twilight Zone, which is of particular interest to me since I have Anthology, my solo side project podcast, which can be found at anthologypod.com, and which is also being relaunched along with Tower Junkies. So check that out. But and then now they're giving a series order to The Stand, and that is super exciting because even when Josh Boone was attached to direct it as a film, as like a 3-picture film trilogy, I think after Ben Affleck dropped out or was out of it. I don't remember the exact chronology of the news and everything, but I wasn't too crazy about them making movies of it because The Stand is such a massive work that it belongs on TV, like in a limited series thing, even though the original miniseries I don't think was quite that great. I saw maybe the first 2 episodes of it. I just remember Rob Lowe playing Nick, and like he's a mute guy, but he reads lips, but like Rob Lowe was not like making any kind of eye contact at all. Like it was very bizarre. But anyway, man, I need to read The Stand again. Such a great novel. But so it's going to be on CBS All Access. It's officially going to have a 10-episode run. I believe it's just going to be a limited series, one and done kind of thing. They're going to put all the content into 10 episodes, I think. But kind of the bigger news about that, or the kind of question that arises out of that, is will this be like R-rated? Are they going to have like R-rated type of material? Because it's obviously The Stand is obviously very graphic and very disturbing in a lot of parts. And Josh Boone actually commented on that on Instagram and said that something to the effect of, hell yeah, it's going to be R-rated, HBO level of content. So that is very, very exciting, because the combination of not being restricted by censors or anything, along with a massive Stephen King fan at the helm of it under Josh Boone, like this has all the makings of being a very great adaptation. Like I'm very excited about it. And I can't wait to see what happens. I don't know when it's necessarily going to come out. I believe it's probably going to be next year, but I can't wait. And I do want to read this quote from the article, from Deadline. It's a quote from Josh Boone. He said, quote, "I read The Stand under my bed when I was 12, and my Baptist parents burned it in our fireplace upon discovery. Incensed, I stole my dad's FedEx account number and mailed King a letter professing my love for his work. Several weeks later, I came home to find a box had arrived from Maine, and inside were several books, each inscribed with a beautiful note from God himself, who encouraged me in my writing and thanked me for being a fan. My parents, genuinely moved by King's kindness and generosity, lifted the ban on his books that very day. I wrote King a cameo as himself in my first film and have been working to bring The Stand to the screen for 5 years. I found incredible partners in CBS All Access and Ben Cavill. Together with Stephen King, Owen King, my longtime producing partners, Nate Lee and Jill Killington, we plan to bring you the ultimate version of King's masterwork. Which, by the way, I forgot to mention that Owen King is going to be in the writer's room. He's one of the writers of the show. So that's very exciting. Having said all of that, I really, really, really hope that Nat Wolff plays Nick Andros. That's a personal pick for me because I like his work a lot, and I think he would be very good at playing Nick. So hopefully that happens. And he has a working history with Josh Boone, so maybe it will. We'll see. But I'm so excited for The Stand. Can't wait, and I have all the faith in the world in Josh Boone and the team that he's assembling for this project. I can't wait to see it. Okay, so my next piece of news is directly related to the Dark Tower series. And this is a little bit murkier than The Stand, and I don't know. It's tough to explain. Let me go ahead and go into it. So, from the #show.com, the headline is exclusive. Amazon Prime's The Dark Tower series sets production schedule. This is written by Charles Murphy. It was on February 7th, 2019. The article says Amazon Studios is set to move ahead with production on their adaptation of Stephen King's The Dark Tower books. The series, which will be comprised of 13 one-hour episodes, will be executive produced by a team of huge names led by Glenn Mazzara from The Walking Dead and The Shield, Akiva Goldsman from Titans, Star Trek Discovery, and the Dark Tower movie, and King. So this is from, basically, it's purporting to be a press release, I believe. It just says that Amazon Studios has begun looking to assemble a cast ahead of a mid-April start of production in Croatia, where the series is expected to film until late June. It appears that part of the delay may have been, in part, due to efforts to distance the series from the 2017 film adaptation, which was received poorly by fans and critics. The series will, of course, focus on Roland Deschain, a young boy from a long line of gunslingers, and his quartet, comprised of Cuthbert Allgood, Elaine Johns, Eileen Ritter, and Jamie DeCurry, in addition to his girlfriend, Susan Delgado. The studio is currently looking at actors and actresses ages 16 to 18 for all the roles listed above. And that's basically all the information it says. Like, there's more about, like, Martin Broadcloak and Roland's mother, but basically, so it feels like it's going to be, what was originally intended as an adaptation of maybe Wizard and Glass and some of the kind of background of Roland as a character, which I am so all about, especially with Glenn Mazzara behind it, because he's a very talented writer. I was first turned on to his writing and his work on the FX show, The Shield, which was undeniably one of my top 3 favorite TV shows of all time. It's incredible. And I think he was also involved with The Walking Dead when it was at its best, in my opinion. So that's also a feather in his cap. And he has been talking about, or he's kind of talked about doing the Dark Tower here and there on social media, and like on his profile, like it has a part of his profile on Twitter is #DarkTowerTV. So I mean, he's invested in it and he's going to be involved in it and everything, and that's great. My hesitance and everything is that this comes from the #show.com, which is a website I have never heard of. And also, and I don't know how to take this, and I'm going to disparage this thing that I love more than anything, really, the Dark Tower. But when this news hit, nobody ran with it. Like this website was the only website to have this news for about 5 hours before other media outlets started running with it. And like it was all just basically from that same press release. So I don't know. I'm just really not skeptical, but like I don't want to get my hopes up because it just seems kind of peculiar. But the biggest kind of the biggest point of authenticity to this story is that the way that I and several other people found it, well, actually, one of our listeners found it and tagged me in it, but this was originally retweeted by Bev Vincent, who is, aside from King and maybe Robin Firth, maybe one of the preeminent authorities on the Dark Tower. So he's plugged in, and I'm sure that that is a pretty good indicator of it being an authentic news story. Having said that, the fact that the other news outlets didn't run with it for several hours, and it doesn't seem, I don't know, maybe I didn't look hard enough, but it didn't look like it had that much traction. That makes me nervous because it makes me feel like, even though obviously, as noted in the article, and as it's kind of alluded to in the article, there's a potential that Amazon has been holding off on it to distance themselves from that disaster of a movie from 2017. But the fact that, news outlets didn't run with it immediately afterwards or anything kind of makes me feel like maybe there's still a little bit of negativity surrounding that brand and the name The Dark Tower, which sucks. Like, that is horrible. It makes me angry. Like, I actually am very angry at that. So hopefully that's not really the case. Maybe it's just because it was just a news item that appeared on a website that, frankly, I don't know if anyone's really heard of. That's kind of mean, I guess. Cause who the fuck am I? Like, I'm just Tower Junkies pod. Like, what is that? We have like 2 episodes every like 9 months. But no, it's not like Deadline broke it or Slash Film or anyone else. Like they didn't break the news or anything. So that's where my skepticism comes from, because I still don't know what the hashtag show is. So anyway, hopefully it's real. Hopefully it's happening. Hopefully it is great. Like, that's the most important part of it. And I think maybe here in a few weeks we'll do an episode where me and Tiny will kind of go through and talk out our feelings about this this development and what we want to see from it, because, man, it's so like, and I'm going to step on that episode here, but basically the idea of us following Roland as a kid, which I don't know, like, it's fine. Like, it's a good idea and I want it to happen, but I also want it to be framed by, like, the story, the Dark Tower story. Like, I get it that it's, it's going through like his backstory and everything, and that's important to have, but I kind of always come back to that big thing that I have with all adaptations of the Dark Tower, or any possible adaptations of the Dark Tower. I need it to start with the man in black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed. Like, I need that to be the opening scene of any adaptation. Like, that's just how my brain works. Given the way that the story is told, like, that has to happen. And I would hope that this is, like, we see that, but I don't know, maybe it starts with that and then it's all a flashback, and then eventually, if it's a huge hit, we will get like a movie series, a proper movie series, or maybe future future iterations of it on Amazon will cover the books. But I just want that. I don't know, because it feels like it might be taking something away from the Dark Tower series as a whole, if it is just solely Roland and his Cot's Head in Magus or wherever, or in I need to read the books again, or wherever, like with Court and everything. Gilead. Wow, why did it take me so long to think of that? Jesus Christ. Anyway, so yeah, and like, it had, like, the story has potential. Like, if you go back and read the comic books, like, there is such a, and I know that on my other podcasts I have shit on this franchise to death, but there is such a rebellious Star Warsian type of story that is depicted in the comic books that I think would make for an incredible TV series. Just the idea of these kids who are basically the last of their kind. They are the last gunslingers, and they've banded together to take down John Farson and the evil that is destroying their world. That is such a compelling story and compelling type of thing, and it's a compelling origin story for Roland Deschain and his road to becoming literally the last gunslinger. So it's good, and I don't know, I'm excited about it. It should be, whatever it is, it's going to be better than the movie. Like it's got to be, because the movie was just an abomination that I own on Blu-ray now. So yeah. Anyway, so that's the Dark Tower news. Like I said, we'll probably have an episode proper with me and Tiny talking about it and talking about our feelings about them trying another adaptation in one form or the other. So moving on to my last piece of news for this episode, the Pet Sematary trailer. Now, there has been one trailer that is, by my count, like a very good, well done trailer where it shows hardly anything. It's very atmospheric, moody. You get voiceover of Judd, played by John Lithgow. It's just very compelling and really great, like gripping as hell. Then, a couple of days ago, they released the second trailer for Pet Sematary, which is coming out April 5th. So, for the last time, I'm going to say this. I'm going to spoil Pet Sematary, the novel, and, by extension, the original movie, also in 1989, and the plot reveals in the new trailer that came out this week. So, before I begin, if you have not read Pet Sematary, or you do not want to know how the new movie is different from the rest of from the source material, please stop listening to me. It's rare that I tell people not to listen to what I say on a podcast, but stop listening if you don't want to be spoiled, because I was so angry when I saw this trailer, and I will go on to why as soon as I finish this spoiler warning. Please turn off the podcast, listen to another podcast, preferably Obsessive Viewer or, Anthology, but whatever. And then come back to this after you've seen it and everything. So having said that, I'm going to play a clip from the trailer. Once I get back from that clip, I'm going to be spoiling Pet Sematary crazily. So there's your warning. Thank you for listening. Come back later.
I know what you're thinking of doing. But they don't come back the same.
Daddy. What's going on?
Hug your daughter. I should never have shown you that place. Your child is not the only thing that will come back. The barrier is broken. We have a second chance. Sometimes dead is better.
Okay, so that was a clip from the new trailer for Pet Sematary, which is coming out April 5th in theaters. So, we're going to have a novel review. We're going to review the novel Pet Sematary here in a few weeks. And as such, I won't go into much about it per se, but I will say that it is one of my absolute favorite Stephen King novels. I think it's been a while since I've listened to our past episodes, but I'm pretty sure I ranked it pretty high on our top 19 Stephen King novels episode before the hiatus, which actually I just re-listened to Pet Sematary on Audible this week just kind of for fun, and just listening to it again, I actually bumped it up a little bit on my top 19, which you'll hear about in a few weeks. But anyway, the thing that I love and am so drawn toward with the novel Pet Sematary is how it unveils itself and how it is a despair-ridden novel, and it is magnificent. Like, it is everything that I love about Stephen King. It is scary, but not in the sense that, oh, it's not a ghost that's coming to get you. Or it's not like spooky noises around on every page or anything. It's that deep-seated fear of losing control of your life and losing control of, like, with Louis Creed and his descent into madness, essentially. I kind of liken it to Jack Torrance's character development in The Shining. But honestly, re-listening to Pet Sematary again, I kind of think that I think Pet Sematary might be better than The Shining. And I think that Louis Creed's development in Pet Sematary is more tragic and engaging and more terrifying than Jack Torrance's descent in The Shining. And the reason for that is because whereas Jack Torrance was, being compelled by an external force to destroy his family, Louis Creed was being compelled by an external force to resurrect his family. So the most compelling thing about Pet Sematary, the most compelling, tragic, heart-wrenching thing about the novel is Gage's death. And what happens in the novel, and I said this on Twitter, I think, or somewhere, that there are certain moments in Stephen King's work that I remember vividly where I was when I read it, how I felt when I experienced it, and just like there are moments that shatter me in his writing. Off the top of my head, there's The Shining, there's The Dark Tower, there's Pet Sematary. Just shattering things. Like in Pet Sematary, when Gage dies, it's about halfway through the book, and we don't get it. We get a scene where Lewis is playing with Gage in the yard with a kite, and then it's prefaced by saying that, oh, this is like Lewis looked back on this day as the last day that he was happy, or something like that. And then suddenly we get to the next part, or the next chapter, and Lewis is at Gage's funeral, in the funeral home. And I was not expecting that when I read that the first time. I had a hardcover copy of it at work on the second floor. I was a security guard at an office building that I work at now for the actual company. I'm not a security guard anymore. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I remember sitting at my desk, reading that section, and just being absolutely devastated. Like I said, it is shattering. It shattered my world. And part of that is because, stupid me, I was picturing my nephew as Gage throughout the entire first half of the book. So that added to the devastation. But the book goes, it is the most gripping and harrowing passage of writing that I've read from Stephen King, of all that I've read of his work. It's that emotionally effective to me. So we get the funeral, we get his altercation with his father-in-law, and then we get this really, really just gripping and tragic moment where it's like he's having a dream that Gage survived and what Gage could have become had he lived. And it's like all of that together is just so powerful, so incredibly powerful. Now I say that because the movie, this trailer, first of all, obvious elephant in the room or cat in the road, Gage doesn't die. It's Ellie that dies, according to this trailer. So that is a switch from the source material, and I'm fine with that. There's an article, I haven't actually read the article, I didn't do my due diligence, but there's an article where I believe the filmmakers said that the reason that they chose to make that change is because it is harder to get a younger actor, such as an actor playing Gage, a 2 or 3 year old, to perform to their liking. So it's kind of I don't know. That's something. And I get that. I don't have qualms about Ellie being the one that dies. That's fine. My problem, the thing that pisses me off so much is that they showed it in the trailer. And I understand that movies are a business and that they have to sell their story to anyone who will see this trailer, and mass audiences don't, like, they're not like, if you are listening to this podcast, if you've sought out this podcast and are listening to me talk about Stephen King and The Dark Tower and Pet Sematary, this trailer is not meant for you. Like, this trailer is not meant for any of us. We know Stephen King's work. We know Pet Sematary. We know what happens. This trailer is not for us because we know the story. We know we're going to see it. This trailer is for people who just know Stephen King by reputation. The people who think, oh, Stephen King, he's a horror writer. I'm going to see this movie because I like this or whatever. So I understand the need to show that in the trailer. My issue with that and what pisses me off about it is that in the novel, in that moment where Gage dies, like, that is one of my top 10, maybe top 5 most, like, emotionally affected passages of writing that I've read. Like, it had such a profound impact on me. And by showing Ellie being killed in the trailer for Pet Sematary, I feel like the marketing of this movie deprived me of a similar experience. Because had I not seen that trailer, had that not been in the trailer, had that not been on the damn poster of the movie, I would have gone into Pet Sematary thinking, like, preparing myself for Gage to get to die. And, like, that would have been such an amazing surprise to have Ellie be the one that gets run over. Like, that would have been such a jaw-dropping moment, and they fucking spoiled it in the trailer. And that is unacceptable to me. Like, and even in the trailer, like, this is me just going into stupid analysis because it's in my head. Like, this change is now in my head and will be in my head until I see the movie in April. And that's not fair. So, like, I'm seeing the trailer, and I've only seen it twice because I watched it again so I can have it fresh in my mind for this, but I don't want to see it again. I never want to see I never want to see any trailer again after this. But in the trailer, like, the way, and this could just be marketing, this could just be switching it around, they could be cross-cutting and editing it in a way that makes it so that it doesn't seem that way, but I guess this is the reason why I'm not disturbed by the actual change in the novel. But in the trailer, it shows that Ellie sees Church in the street, and it's presumed that she goes into the street to get him, and that's when she's run over. Which I think that is brilliant. I think that's a great way to do it, because it's the force of the Pet Sematary and the Micmac burial ground, and, like, the forces at play kind of causing her demise by having Church lure her into the street. I think that's phenomenal. And B, presumably in the movie, Lewis takes Church's dead body to the Pet Sematary, or to the burial ground past the Pet Sematary, and buries the cat so that he comes back. So that having Ellie die going after Church in the road, it just adds to the guilt of Louis Creed and his descent into madness. Because, like, it's one thing to be within an inch from grabbing your child as he runs into the road to his death, but I feel like it could be another thing entirely to do something that brings back something from the dead so that your daughter will be happy, and then having that action directly cause her dying. Like, that is very compelling, and that's very great. And I fucking hate that it's February 10th and this movie comes out April 5th and I'm saying these words, because I should not have these in my head. I should not have this thought. I should not have these images in my mind, because it should not be in the trailer. Like, just, I hate that. I hate that so much. And it's so disappointing to me. And I don't know. I'm going to go in with an open mind, of course, and I'm sure if they do everything right, I'm going to enjoy the movie and I'll have a lot to say about it. But it's just, at this point in time, I'm just so angry that I don't have that surprise, because it's so ridiculous to me. And if you go back and listen to or watch the first trailer, I'll actually play the clip here in this episode, but that first trailer, like, it seems designed to intentionally misdirect us into thinking that it's Gage that dies. Jesus Christ. Alexa, shut down. Okay, so I don't know how I'm going to edit this, but oh my God, that just scared the crap out of me. Whatever I said, kicked off my Amazon Echo that I got for Christmas from my sister. And so as I'm saying that, talking about how, terrifying and everything Stephen King is, my Echo, apparently was triggered by something I said and like started talking, and it scared the crap out of me. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to the first trailer seems designed to keep us in the dark and to make us think that Gage is the one that dies. Like, there is a specific part in the trailer where it sounds like Jason Clarke as Louis Creed is yelling for Gage, and I'll play that here now.
The ground is bad.
See? And they could have carried on with that, and it could have been a very great surprise for every Stephen King Pet Sematary fan going to the movie to see it. But no, they had to have this trailer that, honestly, I'm harping on the whole change and how it shows too much, but even after that, like, it shows way too much of the story. Like, it shows Judd, it shows Zelda, it shows just so much stuff that should not be in the trailer. Like, there's a moment where Ellie comes back after she's been resurrected, and she, like, Louis and Rachel are in their home, and like Louis just says, like, hug your daughter, and it's just like, it's so chilling and very, like, it's very effective. Would have loved to have seen that in the movie instead of actually seeing it in the trailer. But yeah, it's just so aggravating to me. I hate it so much. Like, I hate that we're at the point where movie trailers are giving away too much, and that's an antiquated kind of thing. Like, it's not a new argument. People are talking about that all over the internet, how, trailers give away too much and everything and blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. I feel just so betrayed by it as a Stephen King fan, because that's one of the reasons I watched the trailer, was because I was like, well, I know the story. But I don't know. It's so aggravating. And, again, I really hope that if you're listening to this and you haven't read Pet Sematary or haven't been spoiled on it, I really hope that you didn't do that. Because, man, I just feel like this movie, that moment could have been really special, really, really special in the movie, but the marketing ruined it. And that's so shitty. But anyway, that's my rant. I just needed to get that off my chest, really. So I'm kind of trying to get my bearings here. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That's going to kind of close us out for this episode. Next time on the podcast, and I'm so happy to be saying that, Tiny's going to be back. Tiny and I are going to resume our reviews of season 1 of Castle Rock. So next episode, that'll be episode 22 of Tower Junkies. We're going to review episodes 5, 6, and 7 of season 1 of Castle Rock. That's Harvest, Filter, and one that I am so excited to talk to Tiny about on the podcast, The Queen, which is far and away the best episode of the season. So I'm super excited to get back in the swing of things and to talk to Tiny about that and to hear your guys' thoughts. If you have any thoughts, like, yeah, what did you think of the Pet Sematary trailer? Are you as pissed as I am? Do you have an Amazon Echo that terrified you while listening to this episode? Yeah, I don't know. Just check us out. Follow us on every level of social media at Tower Junkies Pod. Follow me at Obsessive Viewer as well on Twitter, and check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Tower Junkies Pod, and on the internet at our homepage at towerjunkiespod.com. So having said that, that's it. I forgot to do this closeout. Wow, I forgot to do that closeout in the last episode. Anyway, long days and pleasant nights, and may you have twice the number. And thank you for listening.
Tower Junkies is edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. For a full archive of our episodes, go to towerjunkiespod.com/archive. You can also like our Facebook page at facebook.com/TowerJunkiesPod and follow us on Twitter at TowerJunkiesPod. If you enjoy the show, please take a couple minutes to leave us a rating and a quick review on Apple Podcasts. This is the easiest way to support what we do, and all it costs is just a little bit of your time. If you'd like to donate to the podcast, you can make a PayPal donation at towerjunkiespod.com/donate, or support us on Patreon for recurring donations and access to commentary tracks and B-roll audio recorded exclusively for patrons at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Every donation goes toward paying the fees to keep the podcast running and is greatly appreciated. For official Obsessive Viewer merch, including shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more, visit our TeePublic store. You can find a link to the store in the show notes of this episode and at obsessiveviewer.com/donate. Or you can simply search for Obsessive Viewer at teepublic.com. For information about our annual live event showcasing short horror films from local filmmakers, check out shocktoberInIrvington.com. And for an archive of all our events, as well as news about potential future events, head over to obsessiveviewer.com/live. For more podcast content, you can find our flagship movie and TV review and discussion show, The Obsessive Viewer Podcast, at obsessiveviewer.com and on Twitter at obsessiveviewer. You can also find Anthology, Matt's solo podcast covering The Twilight Zone, and other classic and contemporary science fiction anthology TV shows at anthologypod.com and OV Anthology Pod on Twitter. And finally, check out The Secular Perspective, Tiny's side project podcast, which tackles current events and life's big questions from the perspective of secular hosts Chad and Amanda at thesecularperspective.com. Music for the podcast is provided with permission from Fingers T on YouTube. Additional bumper music is provided courtesy of As Good As It Gets, which can be found at facebook.com/asgoodasitgetsband. Thank you so much for listening. Long days and pleasant nights.
Kitty!